Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a quiet, but honestly, a massive shift happening right now in how we evaluate artificial intelligence. As AI models are evolving at this absolute breakneck speed, the traditional ways we test, grade, and rank them, well, they're really starting to show their age. So we're going to unpack the source material behind a fascinating new framework that's meant to solve this exact issue. It's called the Codatta Benchmark Paradigm, and trust me, it's a real game changer.
Okay, let's just kick things off with a super fundamental question. How do we actually know which AI is best? I mean, it sounds simple enough, right? But in a field where massive new language models are dropping literally almost every week, finding the definitive top model is incredibly complex. Like, what are we actually measuring here? Are we measuring creative writing skills, coding accuracy, logical reasoning in math, or, I don't know, just how polite the bot happens to be? We rely so heavily on these industry benchmarks to tell us who's winning the race, but we rarely stop to ask who is setting the rules of that race in the first place and how those rules are actually being enforced.
And that brings us to what we can basically call the AI leaderboard problem. Here's the thing. Current benchmarks don't just passively measure performance, they actively dictate the future. There's this concept in economics called Goodhart's law. It basically states that when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. And wow, this is exactly what's happening in AI right now. Developers are specifically optimizing their new models just to climb specific leaderboards. They're effectively teaching to the test. If a leaderboard relies on a flawed or super narrow testing method, well, the AI of the future inherits that exact same flaw. How we choose to rank these models literally shapes the architectural evolution of the technology itself. It potentially creates this echo chamber of capabilities rather than, actual true intelligence.
So the crucial point here is really understanding the paradigm shift that's currently underway. We're looking at two totally contrasting philosophies of AI evaluation. First, we have the current industry standard, LM Arena. And then we've got this completely new challenger stepping into the ring to shake up the status quo, the Codatta AA approach. To really grasp where AI evaluation is heading, we've got to put these two distinct paradigms side by side. We need to see exactly how traditional methods are being challenged and fundamentally re-engineered by these new technological approaches.
All right, let's take a look at the reigning methodology first. LM Arena is currently the most cited leaderboard out there in the AI space. Its whole foundation is built on what are known as pairwise comparisons. In practice, this just means pitting two models against each other, kind of like a digital blind taste test, and having a human judge pick the winner. It operates a lot like the ELO rating system they use in chess, right? Where winning against a higher-ranked opponent boosts your score way more than beating a total novice. And while it's incredibly popular and super intuitive, relying strictly on this pairwise method at massive scale opens the door to some pretty big potential flaws. Think about it. When human judges are constantly comparing Model A versus Model B across thousands of prompts, you get human fatigue. Subjective biases start to creep in. Plus, the isolated prompts they use in these arenas often just don't represent the complex multi-step tasks that we actually need in the real world. So over time, the actual validity of those comparisons can really start to degrade.
Now, what's incredibly cool about Codatta's AAA approach is how it directly disrupts those traditional flaws. It introduces a completely different structural foundation. First off, it brings blockchain-powered immutability to the table. This is huge because it guarantees full traceability of the evaluation data. Every single vote, every preference, every interaction is recorded permanently and transparently on a decentralized ledger. That means no single centralized entity can just quietly alter the scores behind closed doors. But honestly, perhaps the most important part? It actively avoids vote gaming via token incentives. In traditional systems, paid evaluators might just speed-run through comparisons just to collect a quick paycheck, which totally trashes the data quality. The AAA approach cleverly uses token economics to financially reward only high-quality verified human feedback. By perfectly aligning these cryptographic rewards with genuine effort, the system makes absolutely sure evaluators are inherently motivated to provide honest, thoughtful analysis.
So, moving right along, this brings us to a fundamental shift in the very nature of the evaluation data itself. We're moving away from these old static and ground truth methods toward a live and continuous model. For years, the industry leaned heavily on fixed static datasets to grade models. But the problem is, language, culture, and what users actually need, that stuff moves fast. A static dataset that was created in 2022 might be completely outdated by 2024. We're now contrasting that old static method with a totally new era of live, ongoing evaluation that breathes and evolves right alongside the users.
To really wrap our heads around this difference, think of traditional benchmarks kind of like an AI taking a standardized multiple-choice history exam. It relies on fixed data sets to measure task-specific accuracy. The answers are already known, the test never changes, it's just a closed loop. The AAA approach complements those traditional methods by doing something incredibly dynamic. It brings in live human preference signals and continuous evaluations. So instead of a static exam, this is much more like an AI serving a real-world apprenticeship. The feedback is ongoing, it's messy, and it's deeply reflective of what humans actually need in that exact moment. It doesn't just replace the old standardized test, it adds this incredibly rich, evolving layer of real-time human interaction.
Let's actually break down how that continuous flow works under the hood, based on the source framework. Step 1. The system seamlessly integrates live human preference signals. But what does that actually look like in the real world? Well, it means capturing genuine interactions, things like upvotes, how long a user dwells on an answer, whether they had to heavily edit the AI's output, or, we've all been there, if they had to just reprompt the thing entirely to get what they actually wanted. These authentic preference signals are captured and permanently secured on the blockchain, making them totally immune to corporate manipulation. Then, step 2. It conducts continuous scenario-based evaluations. This isn't just a one-and-done assessment. It's a living, breathing feedback loop. The benchmark is constantly updating itself based on these real interactions. This ensures the leaderboard actually reflects how the AI performs out in the wild, navigating complex daily tasks rather than just inside some sterile laboratory setting.
Which brings us to a final, really provocative thought to chew on. How will continuous decentralized evaluation change the AI tools you use every single day? If leaderboards truly dictate the future of AI, and these new immutable live rankings become the new gold standard, well, the models of tomorrow will be built to satisfy genuine, continuous human preference, rather than just optimizing for some static test. It completely flips the paradigm from teaching AI how to pass a test to teaching AI how to genuinely assist human beings. Definitely something to think about the next time you prompt your favorite AI. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you in the next one.